Back talking Thursday night football now. Tampa taking care of business against Philadelphia to the tune of a pair of touchdown passes from Tom Brady. A pair of rushing touchdowns for Leonard Fournette. As the Bucs held off a late rally from Jalen Hurts and the Eagles to nab the win, 28-22 your final. Tampa now 5-1 on the season. That is the good news. The bad news, more injuries to that defense. Richard Sherman had to leave the game with a hamstring injury during the Eagles' first drive. We got quarterback Mike Vick here to help break it all down for us. Good morning, Mike. My question to you, are the 5-1 Bucs the best team in the NFC right now?
All right, let me see. We got the Cardinals at 5-0. We got Dallas at 4-1, who the Bucs barely beat. And then we got the Cardinals 5-0, Bucs.
The Rams.
Dallas 4-1. And then we got the Rams, who they lost to at 4-1. So, who beat the Bucs. So I can't really say they're the best team right now with the struggling secondary. I think they got a long way to go. They did get out of the stadium with a win last night versus Philadelphia, and that game was close. So I would say no as of right now. They still got a ways to go, and then a banged-up secondary. But without the addition of AB right now, without Antonio Brown being inserted into the mix and doing the things that he's been able to do, he's the reason they winning games right now. I think he's the reason they won the game last night, showed up in some big moments, and he's been doing that throughout the course of the season. So right now, I think they got a lot of work to do, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's not with their scheme, it's with the personnel and guys being out. Once they get healthy, maybe in 4 or 5 weeks from now, they could potentially be the best team in the NFC, and I can say that with conviction. But as of right now, it's a couple other teams that's vouching for that spot as being the best team in the NFC, and right now I have to give it to the Cardinals.
Well, it took an hour and 7 minutes, but finally someone on this show other than me had a good Bucs take. So thank you for that, Michael Vick, because I just can't stop listening to these guys. Oh, my God, they won last year's Super Bowl. They're going to win this year's Super Bowl. This is the best team by far. I understand how impressive the offense and Tom Brady look. Even though last night they kind of, once they got to 28, they stalled out a bit, but that offense is humming. But the secondary is an issue, and it won't show up as an issue during the regular season. They play one Pro Bowl level quarterback the rest of the season. It's Josh Allen. Then their second toughest game is at New Orleans. Their third toughest game is at Carolina. So they're going to be able to hide their weakness. I think they're probably going to be the 1 seed. But right now, I think the Cowboys are better than them, and I think the Rams are better than them. I know the Cardinals are undefeated. I actually think the Bucs are better than the Cardinals. Sorry, Cardinal fans. But I do think the Bucs are in a great position to be the 1 seed, Broussard. And they remind me a lot of last year's Chiefs. The Chiefs got hot at the end of the year after being mediocre throughout the year, carried that momentum to the Super Bowl, won it, and then the next year went 14-1. Last year, the Bucs were mediocre throughout the year, got hot at the end of the year, carried the momentum, won the Super Bowl, and I don't think they're going to be 14-1, through 15 games. But I think 12-3 through 15 games is reasonable. But I think when you're going to have to go through an NFC with the weapons of the Rams, with Dak and the Cowboys, with Aaron Rodgers, with Kyler and the Cardinals, the worst thing for you to be weak at is pass defense. And it's the Bucs' biggest weakness. They had to sign Richard Sherman, and even he got hurt last night. So for all those reasons, no, I don't think they're the best team in the NFC.
Look, I can't argue for their defensive backfield, especially right now, because it is poor. But I do think they're still the best team in the NFC, and here's a few reasons. Dallas's defensive backfield is poor. I know they got Trayvon Diggs, but outside of him, they get crushed defensively in that secondary. And then Dallas's strength offensively, Dak can certainly sling it, but they like to run the ball. But they're not going to be able to run the ball like that against Tampa Bay. And then when I compare quarterback to quarterback, which one would I rather have, Brady or Dak? I'm going with Tom Brady. So I put them over Dallas. The Cardinals, yes, they're undefeated. They were lucky to get by Minnesota, who's mediocre at best. Yeah. And then they didn't look that impressive against San Francisco last week, playing against a rookie quarterback in his first ever start. So that's why I down the Cardinals just a little bit. The Rams, yes, they obviously had their way with Tampa Bay, but that Rams defense isn't what it used to be. All right, and maybe it's missing Brandon Staley. That's probably a big part of it. But it is not the defense we expected to see from last year. It's still better than Tampa Bay's, no doubt. But I think offensively, they're not as good as Tampa Bay. You mentioned AB, Mike, and they got weapons galore. I mean, from the receivers to the tight ends to the running backs. I mean, it's unbelievable offensively what they can do. And I'm trusting and believing that they will be able to get that defense together. Yesterday, the defense looked pretty good through 3 quarters. Levante David was out. Antoine Winfield Jr. was out. So I do think they'll be able to get it together and that their offense is superior to the Rams, who are the other team I think you'd throw in that mix to be better than them. None of us have mentioned Green Bay, and I think with good reason. I think they're slightly below the Rams and the Buccaneers and maybe Wilds, the Cowboys.
Ooh, okay, so I take the Bucs passing, porous passing defense with a grain of salt because you literally can't do anything against them on the ground. The highlights are great where like Vita's grabbing one guy to slam him down like a bear hug. I think Miles Sanders had 1 yard at half. They held the Patriots to negative yards, which literally means they had more yards before the game than they did after the game. The Bucs defense, rush defense, #1 2 years ago, #1 last year, will be #1 this year. So, of course, the teams are going to throw it against them a little bit, so the yards are going to be up. But I don't think it's as big as an issue as you guys do. Mike, the reason why I think the Bucs are the best team in the NFL is because of Tom Brady. I know it's kind of an obvious answer, but his leadership is on an extra level this year. And I want to show you a graphic and get your take on it. We know that the Bucs have a lot of weapons. And what's usually the issue if you have a lot of weapons? I mean, it's great, don't get me wrong. Is everybody going to be happy? Look at this. 29 receptions, 31 receptions, 34. Everyone's yards pretty much the same. TDs pretty much the same. Mike, I think he's doing this on purpose. I think he's like a NBA point guard who is distributing the ball and is at another level. It's like, yeah, we'll win the game. If I need to win the game, my philosophy might change a little bit. But right now, during the game, I'm on another level, and I'm going to distribute the ball to keep the team happy. Do you buy that his distribution is on purpose like this?
Yeah, I buy it, and it's easy to distribute the ball like that when you have Gronkowski out. Because that probably could be the equalizer in terms of guys being almost at par with all their catches. But when you look at those 3 guys, that's a true trio of receivers that you can rely on. You know, like I said, with AB playing some of his best football, Mike Evans has his own set of attributes, and then Chris Godwin has really shown up big in the slot. He's made more clutch catches this year than he did last year, if you ask me. So, you know, it's easy to distribute the ball to those guys and design plays to get it to them, and they're a problem for the defense, and they'll continue to be that. So that's what's going to make Tom Brady continue to get better in this offense each and every year.
One thing to keep a note with that secondary, by the way, they're like all injured. Eventually, these guys are going to come back, and then you saw Sherman out again last night. So maybe that plays a little bit into why it's been such a porous defense. Mike Vick, thank you as always. That was great. We got to take a turn and pester Nick Wright just a little bit. Time for Nick's picks. All right, hold on. Okay. Last week, Nicholas, you went 1-2. You dropped your season record to 4-5, and your lock of the week record is 1-2. Wait, let me say it again. It is a darn good thing I don't know how to gamble. I'd be big poor.
Pretty poor.
What happened, Nick?
Stop. I know.
Let's pick it up.
Listen. Hey.